This is lesson 2, graphing, quadratics, and standard form, day 2. So, number 1, first thing we're going to do is we're going to find our axis of symmetry. I'm going to do that up top. So, axis of symmetry, remember that equation is x equals negative b over 2a. So in this case, our a is 1, b is negative 2, c is 2. So axis of symmetry is going to be x equals negative 2, 2 negatives, sorry. Move that over so it looks nicer. Over 2 times 1. So we get 2 over 2, so x is equal to 1. So our vertex, we know right now that it's at 1 something. I'm going to write that a little bit smaller so I can fit my solving in. So we have y equals 1 squared minus 2 times 1 plus 2. Plug that in your calculator. So I get 1. So that is my vertex, 1, 1. So we can put that on our graph right now if we want to. We could even draw in that axis of symmetry right away because we know that's our axis of symmetry, that's our vertex. Now for our table, we know 1, 1's in the middle. Pick some points on either side. And now to plug in. So when I say plug in these x values, these values are going to be plugging in right here. So we're just taking the same thing, plugging in. We should be really good at plugging in now because we've been practicing it since we started Unit 9, and it's kind of a refresher. We've been doing this way before. Now remember, you only got to plug in half the values, so you can either plug in just the 2 and 3 or just the negative 1 and the 0. You don't got to plug in all of them now. Because we've been doing this for so long, we should be pretty good at plugging in and not making mistakes. Okay, now plot the rest of our points. Okay, there is my graph. Now our domain, remember same thing every time, negative infinity to infinity. Range, well, we have a minimum right here. Doop, doop. That's our minimum value, which means this is going from 1 to positive infinity. And remember, we're using this y value. Again, we've been doing this in, we did 3 days on 9.1 doing this domain and range stuff. So it's the same thing, just it looks a little bit different because now we have our equations in standard form. Okay, number 2. Let's find our axis of symmetry. So we have x equals negative negative 4 over 2 times negative 2. So 4 over negative 4, which is negative 1. So our vertex is at negative 1 something. Now remember, we're going to plug in. So we have y is equal to negative 2 times negative 1 minus 4 times negative 1 plus 5. Now that's what I'm going to be plugging into my calculator. Oh, forgot my squared. So right away I can even plot this if I want to. Negative 1, 7. And I can even put my axis of symmetry in there. So we have negative 1, 7. Put some points around it. Now let's plug in. Okay, so we get 5. Okay, so now we're at negative 3, we are at negative 1. Negative 2, we're at 5. And then now, honestly, we're just flicking it over that axis of symmetry. And then there's my points. There's my graph. Now, domain, again, same thing every time. In this graph, though, we have a maximum point. Remember, this is the tallest point and everything is going down. So we're going from negative infinity to 7. Because it starts at 7 and it's going down. Okay, 2 more problems. Now in this case, remember what I talked about. This is like your b is 0. So it's like saying we have a 0x there in the middle. So a is 1, b is 0. So our axis of symmetry is just negative 0 over 2 times 1, which is just 0. So every time you have a b is 0, axis of symmetry is 0, and your vertex starts at a 0. And then I said, remember, if your vertex has a 0x coordinate, your c value is what your y value is. And we can even show that right here. So if we plug 0 in, right, that just gets you that c value back, that 5. So we can go ahead and put that on our graph, 0, 5. We can even plug in axis of symmetry. So in our table, plug some values in around 0. Now plug in. Okay, so negative 1 we're at 6. And 1 we're at 6. And 2 we're at 9. And negative 2 we're at 9. Now in this case, we have a minimum, which means, I'm getting ahead of myself, but our range is going to be from that min value to infinity. Okay. Last one. So again, first thing, find your axis of symmetry. So we're going to do negative 8 over 2 times 2. That's negative 8 over 4, which is negative 2. So our vertex is at negative 2 something. Now let's plug in. Okay, so we have 2 times negative 2 squared plus 8 times negative 2 plus 4. So our vertex is at negative 2, 4. And then we can put that axis of symmetry in there. Now, just from looking at our equation, this a value is a positive 2, which means our graph is going to look something like this. It's going to go up. So, what the heck kind of x is that? Okay, let's plug some values in. Okay, now remember, again, I'm just taking these x values and plugging it into our equation. So now, -4, we are at, oh, what the heck? Oops. I forgot my negative. How many of you guys caught that? So this dot, in the wrong spot, should be at -2, -4. Same thing though, this should be going up, and it does. So at -4, we're at +4. -3, we're at -2. Now just reflect it over our line. Okay, domain, -infinity to infinity. Range, well, we have a minimum again, which means our range is from -4 to infinity, because it starts at -4 on your y's and it's going up.